Right, what have I got today? It's a small one. Now I got a small one because I was busy at work doing a little bit of electronics work, and I was in a, it wasn't a massively confined space, but it was an awkwardly confined space, and I was trying to cut some wires to make some changes, and it was a pain in the backside. Generally, I would just reach for a diagonal cutter, dikes, whatever you call them. I don't know what people refer to these now. They're certainly not flush cuts because they've got that bevel, as you can see there, bevels in, and I would just cut the wires. Sometimes I want something that is flush, and I realise you can get flush cuts, but these were too big. Not this exact model. I've got a VDE set at work. This is a different set of model, but I just wasn't able to get the clearance I needed. And someone said, oh, you can get these little super Knipex and all this. And I says, well, I'll have a look. So I did have a look. And I went and had a look at Knipex. So made in Germany, and just to prove it, it should say made in Germany, and it says that on the tool. I've put it exactly back in the box. I've used it obviously at work to do, I did about 6 sets of what I needed to do on 6 different pieces of equipment there. And I've put them back in the box just to show you. And I really like these things. So what on earth are these? The actual Knipex code is 7806125. For those who don't know, 78 just refers to the tool. This happens to be some super snips or super knips or whatever you want to call them. And then you have 06, which is the handle type. There's loads of different handle types. You've got the comfort grips like this. You've got the plasti dip ones, the plasti dips with the texture. These happen to be VDE, so just bear in mind that that's what that refers to. And then the 125 is the metric of the handle, so 125mm. So boring enough. I'll take it out. I'll put the packet thing back in there, and I put it back in the box. There was nothing in the box other than the super knips or nips or whatever you want to call them. So here they are here, and I'll give you a nice close look. So as you can see, stamped on the metal there, Knipex, made in Germany, inox, perfect. And then on the inside there is some basic information. So made in Germany, you have a little stamp there when it was made, and 1000V. So it's VDE, that's in Europe and Germany, that's what the standard that they'll test that up to. They are claiming that this will save you from a 10,000 volts there. So they've tested that all the way up there, so pretty decent. And if I remember rightly, let me just have a look on the box. There wasn't there? I thought there was a little other thing. In fact, no, there wasn't actually. No, not on this one. Okay, so let's have a close look at what else we've got here. So made in Germany, you've got your VDE there, and the tested rating in volts, and then 24 there. So pretty decent. Now just bear in mind, that will say, I mean, you can see there, it says 1,000, but I think off the top of my head, and I will check this, I'm pretty sure they tested up to 10,000, and that's why before I said 10k, they'll over test it, but the claim that they will make is only 1,000. So you couldn't then run out and go, I'll just do some live work on a 10,000 volt. Yeah, okay, they may have tested that in a water tank up to that, but they're only claiming that. And you shouldn't be working on live equipment ever unless it's an absolute necessity. And even then, you shouldn't be getting advice off me on things like that, or anyone on YouTube. You could die. So just bear that in mind. So I've gone for the VDE because I don't want to get a low voltage electric shock on some of the equipment I work on. But again, I'm not trying to give you any advice or training on that. That's not what I'm here for. I'm just talking about this tool. So there it is there. And you can see it has a little detent in there in a circle there. And that, I mean, you know, they'll call that an opening limiting feature or something like that. It does, it limits it opening. The reason you have that is because on the back side you have this spring wire here. So because of that, it'll automatically return there. You see that? But you don't want to go too far and flying out, so it prevents the level of movement there. So let's get a nice close look at this head there. So it's like a stamped metal construction, nice and thick though, even though it is very small. And as you can see, you have the cut there, which goes in on both sides. And then on the back, you will notice it is flush. There is no bevel. So if I close this, if I can get that right. So if I close that there, that is flush. See that? That's a flat surface. In comparison to something like these diagonal cutters, they are beveled there. So if you were to make a cut, you're always going to get a little bit left. You may or may not know this, it depends on what you do for a living, but if you ever use these to cut something like a zip tie, it leaves a horrible little sharp protrusion there, and if you catch yourself on it, it's a right pain in the backside. So if you ever are cutting zip ties and it's not too thick, use super knips like this or something similar, or a flush cut, because then it doesn't leave that horrible annoying thing that'll cut your skin and things like that. So I'll give you a full rotation there. Beautiful construction there. So this is the 125mm because I just needed a small tool to just get in and make those cuts, and I've been very impressed with them so far. So, what capacities does this have? Because as you can see, it's a very, very small tool. It's certainly not like this, and it's certainly not like, I mean, look, in comparison, there's some bolt croppers or whatever you want to call them these days. So, big difference, but obviously this is going to cut something very thick. This is going to cut standard wires. This is for small light work. They are saying medium hard wire will do it to 1 mil, soft wire it can do it really nice down to something like 0.1 mil. If by giving you that figure, they're trying to say even if it's really, really small wire, it's still going to cut it, whereas some of these heftier tools can sometimes have a little bit of bother with that. And I think it says on here, actually, where is it? Is it not on the tool? No, where is it? Let me have a look. There you go. So you can see that max copper wire, diameter of 1.6, that's in metric, so millimeters, and then ferrous there, the diameter, you should be aiming for about 1 mil, but pretty decent. It does have the open limiting feature, and it does have the spring, which is very nice, and it flush cuts. They are saying it can take it down to you know, the closeness you can get. I mean, that's ground flat, but they are saying on their own literature it's 0.2 of a mil. It's going to leave a little bit. I've not really noticed that, and it's been certainly flush for me. You do have different variants of this. Bear in mind, this is just your standard sort of coating here. It also almost looks a bit stone washy, like they've sort of rolled that in a machine and then sharpened it afterwards, because it's a very nice finish on there. It's not a standard finish. You can get it trematized, lacquered and burnished and all sorts of things like that. So there's loads of different ones, and there's loads of different handle types. Like I say, you can get the plastic dip with the slight texture, which I like, it's harder to clean. Then you've got like the comfort grip, or component handles I call them. I don't really call them comfort grip, where you can see they're made out of 2 different materials. And then this is the VDE. Generally you'll find VDE, the other difference is, you see how you've got this protrusion here on the, well, I mean, I would call them component handles. The problem with those is you need something to protect you from the electricity, so you'll generally find on the VD ones this is much more pronounced. It's to stop you slipping and touching the metal bit, so I think that's a nice design. Also, I prefer that design because I can use that to lever things up. I don't need it on this because it's spring loaded, you just need to press it in. But on other ones, see how I can't push that open? I can on, if I've got a set of VD version of this in the office, and I can push these backwards and forwards. That is not tight, that is still loose, but you can't actually grip enough to push that up and down, so I always prefer this design. It costs a bit more, but I think it's worth it. So I'm pretty impressed with this. I've only used it for, I think there's 4 sets. I think I did 6 in total. I had to use multiple clips, bang, straight in, no problem, cut everything perfectly. I can't see any wear and tear on that, but it wasn't solid wire that I was cutting, it was stranded, and it did absolutely perfect, and it was pure copper. It wasn't like tin plated or anything like that. So that still looks brand new. I even cut my nails a little bit. So they've been excellent so far. So I was very, very, very impressed. In fact, I was so impressed, I've ordered another pair. So I'm going to have one in my tool bag and one in the office, so I can just quickly get at these, because they're dead light and I can certainly stick that in a bag, no problem. So what do I really like about these? Flush cut, VDE, made in Germany, stamped made in Germany on there and the handle and on the box, and very, very sharp, and you've got a lovely little precise head there with that little grind in there. So look, I mean, the size of that, it's incredible. In fact, I'll show you. I do have a, just so you can see, I mean, you know what the sort of measurements are anyway, but look, just so you can see, these are millimeters here. Look, tiny little head there. Very, 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 very precise. So I've been really impressed. So I just try to make this quick. I've tried desperately to get this under 10 minutes. I really like the fact it's flush, it's VDE, made in Germany, very, very sharp. I'm going to give these a 9.5. I'm finding it extremely difficult to find anything other than the price that I don't like. And sometimes you just got to pay that bit more. So Knipex, you've done it again. Beautiful small tool, VDE. I really like it. Anyway, any comments or questions you have, stick them down below and I'll do my best to answer them. And I'll get to other tools at some point, but I am pushed for time at the moment. So there you go. I'll get you a nice close up in 4K there. Really well made precision tool there. Extremely happy with this. Well worth the money that I paid there. Beautiful. Right, I'll let you get on with your day. Goodbye.